from a first lien HELOC standpoint, when you deposit money into the HELOC, when you drive in the money, that results in paying down the balance, period, right away. That paying down the balance has a direct result with the goal of paying off the house.
Yeah.
And so,
agreed.
And then if you care about paying off the house, every single time that you deposit
every
money
month, you're getting closer.
You're getting closer and you see it. So your actual action that you take to put everything in there gets you closer to the goal. Well, every time you take money out to pay for your bills, it takes you away from the goal. So it reinforces the positive behavior and puts a consequence on the negative behavior. So people that actually pay attention to that,
I agree.
I've seen them take it and run with it.
And that was one thing that when we first met, you mentioned, and you see it, like you see people's lives being transformed. You see the motivation, and that's impossible to argue with because.
And you know, I've got a small data set, right? But I can't argue with the people that I've talked to who've, you know, I did a testimonial with a couple, and he brought his wife in, and she said, we were planning on paying it off in 3, we paid it off in 2. And like, I remember, like, that's what it sounds like, and just remember it. And does that happen with every single person? No, but the direct relationship between action and result and goal, I don't know of any other strategy or product in line with the strategy that has that direct relationship. You know, if you're putting money in a savings account, the theoretical and mathematical reality of that may be able to outperform something else, right? Like this. But every time you put money into a high yield savings account, it doesn't have a direct relationship with a goal of trying to pay off the house.
It's removed. So it might be less motivating.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I actually came ready with a bunch more motivational theories. But
cool. Bring them.
It doesn't have to be like motivational theory.
That's what people subscribe for. They want their mortgage lender
to talk about motivation. So there are a couple more. Another one has to do. It's called the goal setting theory. Locke and Latham, and this is one of the most widely used, most motivational theories in behavioral science. And so, what they talk about is that if someone wants to achieve a goal, they talked about the type of feedback you have to receive, and it needs to be specific. It needs to be directly related to what you want to achieve, and it has to be relatable.
Yeah.
Right. And so, every time people deposit money in their HELOC, it covers those 3 things, and so it reinforces the behavior. There's another one. The guy's name starts with a G, but it has to do with implementation and the architecture of the structure of the strategy you're going to use. And so that one had more to do with the more manual decisions you have to make to achieve a goal, the more likely you're just going to quit.
Yeah. There's power in automation.
Right. And so it's like, there's the automatic, right? So the first thing HELOC, we haven't gone into this yet, but we built ours to work in conjunction with a checking account. Right. So in order to implement the strategy, you deposit to a checking account and use a checking account to pay your bills. You don't have to learn a new strategy and a new concept, a new procedure for you to think about and decide on. You just deposit money.
Yes.
And so anyway,
So let's before I hit you with some other questions, what are things that you want to call out that you're like, hey, this is maybe something that gets overpitched, oversold, or a misconception.
Yep.
One of the questions that I'm going to ask you, whether you bring it up or not, is this simple interest versus compound amortized interest and all. Would love, and that actually came up when we talked originally, and that's why I was like, you know what, I would love to have you on because you are a big fan of this. You don't apologize, I love talking to you, but yet you're also willing to, call balls and strikes.
I'll start with the ones that played to my benefit first, then we get to the other
Perfect.
ones. I'm biased just for what's
that's right.
But I think one misnomer is that people hear the way that others pitch this or offer it or try and generate attention, and their assumption is that those people, maybe me also, I'm not sure, I haven't gotten feedback specifically, but that they assume that means that person or that entity thinks that everyone needs to get it, right? If there are people that are doing that, they're wrong, period. I haven't come across people that have said that, but if that's the case, they're absolutely.
Yeah, if you're selling this, like we'll fix all your problems and everyone needs this.
It's the absolute best for everyone.
Yes.
That's completely incorrect.
Okay.
So I think that's one sort of mistake that people make. I think secondly is that people assume that when when people who teach the strategy talk about how it can be used to become debt free really quickly, that they assume that that's the only way we understand it can be used, and that's also wrong. The reality is that this is a financial vehicle. It's not just a mortgage. It's not just a tool to become debt free. The reality is every dollar you pay into this, every dollar you pay down, you have access to as well, and so it can also be used as a leverage tool as well. Also, and so we're aware of that. Does that counter? If you're going to pull $100,000 to buy a rental home, right? Does that counter the ideology or the ideal of becoming debt free? Yeah, but is it against financial best practice? No.